Morning, everyone. My name is James Giglio. I'm with MVP Interactive, and I'm happy to do another mentor session here for the Accelerators organization. So this is going to be another quick one. Not too many questions here, but I'm happy to kind of go through these in short order. So the very first question, let me move this over here so I don't look away from you guys. So very first question is coming in from Ricardo Delgado. Question he asked is, where should I build my website so customers, future employees can see what we do? I see websites where people can apply for jobs. How and where should I start with this? Business description and background of question. I have a barber shop and want to build a great website to showcase our brand and also have recruits apply for positions. Great question. Any good business starts with a decent website, right? And it's very important to have an online presence. So my recommendation is to check out a company called Launch Kits. Launch Kits is a subdivision of a web developer program shop called Sparrow Websites. But Launch Kits is designated for new businesses and startups. So they're low cost. They have a great range of templates, but it's an actual development team that can help you add those particular features or widgets, unlike Squarespace or Wix, where it's a no-code tool that you can build your own website. If you're creative and you want to take that on as a low-cost option, that's totally fine. But I think you'll get a lot of value and for your dollar and your spend with a company called Launch Kits. I can go ahead and share that in the group as well if you want a URL, or maybe I'll connect with Sean to kind of distribute it throughout the organization as well. But can't speak highly of them enough. I actually worked with Sparrow website in my existing website because I wanted to make sure that my current site was optimized for SEO. So they also provide an auditing service. So companies here that may have a website but don't know if you've really been optimized in search engine optimization, they have that service as well. So they'll do an audit for, I think, about $500 and then make key strategic recommendations to update your website without completely rebuilding it. So had a great experience with them, really nice folks, and they're super affordable. So Launch Kits by Sparrow Websites. Okay, second question is coming in from Ashley Latornell. Question they asked, I have a 3,000 square foot open mat space to use during the day, trying to figure out how to use it the best. Business description is, I'm partnering with my coworkers at a martial arts gym, and we're trying to bring in different revenue streams, use the facility to its full potential. Right now it's empty from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's A+ prime location in a wealthy neighborhood right off the highway in the same plaza as Costco. Well, good for you. I mean, that's prime real estate now that COVID is, essentially moved beyond any restrictions for people to, re-explore retail opportunities. I think that's certainly something you want to take advantage of. And so I just wanted one piece of clarity in terms of I'm partnering with my coworkers at the martial arts gym. So I don't know if that is the service or it was a gym, but that's the facility. You're doing martial arts right now. I think, between those time zones, you're exactly right with wealthy individuals and folks that maybe are working from home or are stay-at-home moms, for example. But I think what you can do is really try to remarket the space as a full health and wellness facility. And then you can break out scheduling for the different type of services, whether in the morning it's yoga, meditation, Pilates, something along those lines, and then kind of transition into the evening times as that martial arts studio. So you can have a complete holistic facility for your business. And so I would maybe look into that. If I'm understanding this properly in terms of martial arts is what you're actually what your business is. And so if the space allows for it, I understand there could be a lot of combat gear, but if you can convert it to a health and wellness and use it tangentially to your core business, I think that could be really valuable. So I like where your head's at. You definitely want to, keep that entrepreneurial spirit and optimize and maximize, the space that you have. So good luck with that. Next question is coming in from Nico Avilia. Should I send money from my personal checking account to my business account to show income, knowing I will be transferring it back to my personal account to pay for living expenses? I have a personal Venmo account tied to my personal checking account. My income comes from my video editing and my client pays me through Venmo. I'm not sure if transferring money from a personal account to a business account will show up as income from my LLC, and if it's even worth it, because I will have to just transfer it right back. Any thoughts? So, number one, if you're just moving money back for the sake of moving money back to manipulate your balance statement or your P&L, your accountant's going to call you out on that, and you're going to need to justify where the transfer of money is going for and why it's being transferred. As small business owner, of course, you're going to share, money is money, right? There's times that I have to, hoping to move away from this, but there are times that I have to take personal savings or rainy day funds, if you will, move them into my business and essentially create a loan for the business coming from me, which is documented through your tax returns, and so you can, or your P&L, so you can really document what exactly this money exchange is. If you're moving money between accounts, you'll need to log them as what's called a COG, or a cost of goods sold. So when you're doing your taxes at the end of the year, your accountant can see these transfers come in, and if you can justify them into the cost of goods sold, that is real revenue for your business. But if it's coming from you to the business, it's going to be viewed as just a loan or an expense. And so I would definitely speak to your accountant. I'm not an accountant, but I do, I have transferred money between two, but it's, again, primarily just loans, just to kind of bridge maybe account payable and receivable time frame. So it's not just funny money. So next question is coming in from Kristen. Question they asked is, what is a successful margin look like from gross profit to net profit in a business? Does it vary business to business? What should the goal be? I work for my dad's company to eventually take over for him, and I also have my own startup business. My dad goes over his company P&L with me. I make 20% of net profit of his company. Looking at the gross profit versus net profit, I'm not sure what a good profit margin would be. He says his business is great and very profitable. My initial reaction that I kept to myself, of course, was, wow, that's it for your net profit. After all that money spent, is it even worth it? What's good margin goal? Thank you. Great question. And, that's really the point of the business, right? Is to make money and keep your expenses low and high and earn return on your net margins. And the gross, I always joke, right? Like the top line revenue is the sexy number, but it's the EBITDA, or the earnings before interest and taxes, that you really need to focus on, which is essentially the net profit. So there, of course, is not a blanket rule for what that percentage of net margin should be. Obviously, the higher, the better. But if you think of an EBITDA perspective in that, what are the cost of goods sold, the expenses, and the margins on your business to remain profitable is the goal. So even at 20%, for example, your dad thinks it's a great business. Maybe his expenses are really low, that it's, he can sort of manage and run the cash flow properly on just 20%. Even within internally, say my business, for example, we produce a lot of software, but we also procure a lot of hardware. On hardware, it's more difficult to make a higher margin on that because they're physical goods, and there's only, we don't produce and manufacture from an OEM standpoint. Like we're not building, we'll build a computer with components, but they're not our components, right? We can fabricate an item for a client, but it's not our steel. We actually have to produce it, and so there's only so much profit margin in those fixed goods. But generally, I try to stay within a 20 to 30% profit margin for that piece. Where we make our higher margin is in the software development. Software development provides, just real bandwidth and sort of expenses on the developers that we work with, that has a very clear line to what the investment of time and money is to produce this software. And we have far more opportunity to resell that or kind of retail that price to our clients. And for those projects, we're at 60% on occasion, sometimes much higher. I try not to be too egregious with these the software development pieces, but as a business, that's really important to us because the fixed costs aren't as high as they are with the fabrication or the hardware piece. So no magic number, but I think if you're on the right path in terms of focusing on that bottom line, EBITDA, net income, and based on your expenses, really that's kind of how you're going to figure out what the sweet spot is for you, if it's 20% or 60%. But clearly, capitalism, the higher the margin, the more money you're going to make, and that's something that you, as business owners, is really important. So, next question, last question is coming from Joe the Home Pro. I know you. How do I determine what KPIs to set up for new marketing rep I'm bringing on so I can track activities? I own a home inspection company in Naples, Florida. I need to bring on a marketing rep to grow my business. They will do outreach to spheres of influence like real estate brokerages to try to get them to send their property inspections to us as opposed to current vendors. I want to track results. How would you go about doing that? I work with people buying a home to inspect it prior to closing to ensure the home is safe. So, good question. When you're doing B2C business or marketing, I know that there's tools online that I am not an expert on, quite honestly, but if you're investing in a web presence and Google Analytics, for example, you can show conversions on what your spend is to get key AdWords out onto the internet and generate the interest or hits to your website that can kind of correlate that investment to the response. If you're working with an individual in terms of onboarding them to do marketing efforts, I think you're on the right path in terms of setting these scorecards or breaking out exactly what the roles and responsibilities of this individual is doing. For us, we have a part-time marketing director as well, and each month we go through a key list of workflow for what she is supposed to do, and that's consists of marketing emails, compiling what the newsletter, e-letter looks like and pushing them out through our database on a sequence or on a scheduled, repeatable calendar through the course of the month. Is there any website maintenance updates that need to be done from a marketing perspective? We have a back end open that you can kind of go in and add new content, new imagery, new promotional items or new product or new campaign that we ran. So that's a part of the workflow. Obviously, trying to find a clear line on return of investment based on the expense and the response is a tough one, right? Like there's an old adage with advertising or marketing that says, 50% of my advertising doesn't work, but I just don't know which 50%. So it's a little bit nebulous to that degree, but I think you really just have to, if you're looking for like a true ROI, give yourself a budget and a length of time, because it just takes one potentially. We always say that, right? Where any investment we make into a conference or marketing, it's like it just takes one new client to underwrite or justify that initial expense. And so, that's the type of metrics or the approach that we take. We don't do any other sort of outbound, outside of Google Analytics that, you can track your daily spend for keyword searches and such. There's not much that I would have experience on in terms of what other marketing tools, but I know that there's strategies that can help track, mail flyers, for example, and I know that's probably pretty important to your business and industry and such. So, sorry I couldn't really give you a direct answer or a specific one to the home inspection business, but I think you're on the right path too in terms of having a marketing director to kind of handle all of that outreach. Give it a timeline, give it a budget. It just takes one, right? Like just keep positive and knowing that you can convert some of this outreach as a result of the efforts, and that's truly going to be your sort of KPI, right? So that's all the questions. I told you it was going to be a short one, quick 15 minutes. So the day is yours. Have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you guys next month as well.